So let's get on with this, right? You want to hear from the candidates? All right. I'd like to introduce our moderator tonight. He is Dylan Smith, and he's the founder and editor of TucsonSentinel.com, which is a local independent nonprofit online news source. Please welcome Dylan Smith.
As mentioned, I'm Dylan Smith, the editor and publisher of TucsonSentinel.com, your nonprofit, local independent news source. And I'm honored that I was asked to moderate, yet again, a public forum of these CD2 candidates. And I'm really pleased to see such a full house here this evening. Thank you all for coming. I've asked each of the candidates to approach tonight as a spirited conversation rather than a formal, structured debate. But because we have 6 of them here tonight, we've also got to put a little bit of limit on the length of their answers to make sure we can get through enough topics and ask them enough questions and maybe pin them down a little bit on some things. Now, as I briefly introduce them, Mary Matiella is the daughter of migrant farm workers. She's the former CFO of the U.S. Forest Service, Assistant CFO of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and was the Assistant Secretary of the Army under President Obama. Former ambassador to the Arizona Technology Council and One Young World, and was a co-founder of the Tucson restaurant Prep and Pastry. Bruce Wheeler grew up in South America and studied at the University of Arizona. He was a Tucson City Councilman, retired from the Tucson Airport Authority as Director of Energy Management, and served for 6 years in the Arizona House of Representatives. Sherry is a McNeil resident, a retired rancher who raised organic beef and pork, and a mortgage broker with 20 years of experience in the financial industry. And a newcomer to the debate stage, Yahya Yuksel is an attorney who was an intern for Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, co-founder of Team Democrats, chair of the City of Tucson Human Relations Commission, and co-chair for Councilmember Karen Ulick's re-election campaign. He's a U of A grad with business and law degrees and a master's in Chinese law with a specialty in international investment. So we're going to spend our time tonight digging into some specifics about what each of you want to accomplish if you're elected to Congress and how you would realistically get that done. The audience wants to hear your qualifications and why you are the best candidate for them. But it's a matter of simple arithmetic that you all aren't going to be the top vote getter. Even so, if the Democrats were to take over the House, what should be the first priority of that new majority, and how do you solve that problem without 60 votes in the Senate? And if you can, name one issue you're willing to break with your party over to represent the interests of CD2 residents. And Mary, you have 90 seconds.
Well, my first priority in the House of Representatives will be to make sure that you get your respect back, that you are heard. Our civil rights have been diminished. You've seen that with the Muslim ban. You've seen that with the president not siding with civil rights, with actually backing the supremacists. So fundamentally, it comes to the respect that we have as individuals. So I would go back to make sure that the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, came back. It's been disbanded. I would make sure that any kind of civil rights legislation that was disbanded would get re-implemented. It's just so very important that your civil rights are respected and that you are heard. And so I would go to Congress to work on reinstituting any civil rights aberration that has been committed by Trump. One issue that I think is very, very important is I think that the federal government has to play a bigger role in water. Water is a big problem here in Arizona, and we keep battling it out between the states and who's going to have priority over the water in the Colorado River. I think that the federal government has got to step in and make sure that Arizona is a sustainable environment, that we do not run out of water, that there is a disaster plan in place in case we have a very hot summer where our electricity runs out or where our water supply gets so low that we're not able to function normally. So the federal government has to step in and plan for Arizona's water issues. Thank you.
So, first of all, I thank you all for being here, and it's really great to be here again. And one very quick moment of my time, I just would like to say how tremendously proud that I am of Arizona's teachers. And while I was in the Arizona House for 4 years, a couple of them with Bruce Wheeler here, we worked together. And often the Democrats lost because there were a lot more Republicans. But we were respectful, for the most part at least. And I didn't agree with Jan Brewer on every single issue. In fact, for the most part, I didn't agree with her on almost anything. But we were able to have a conversation. And sometimes we could work together. And I will say, on one particular issue, back to education for a moment, I did break with the Democratic caucus in the House and in the Senate when I was in the legislature, when Governor Brewer proposed a 1-cent sales tax to fund education. And most of it, well, a little bit more than the majority of the Democratic caucus decided they didn't want to go along with that. But that's one thing that I said, you know what, we can't have 45 students in every classroom. We can't get rid of 20% of our teachers. And no, I don't like the way you're funding this, but I'm going to stand up for our students and educators, and I'm going to go ahead and vote for this, even though not everyone in the party was. So that's something I would do for Southern Arizona if it came to it.
Thank you, Ben.
As a rancher, for me, a topic that is not a popular one where I come from is gun control. And it is amazing how it has gotten forgotten. And I imagine we are going to have another event to bring it out again. We have so disappointed the youth of this country. Every house in Congress, all the senators, they should be embarrassed, ashamed of their inactivity. I don't know what it will take in this country for us to wake up. I just don't know. But I will go there, and trust me, this will be my main thing that I will work for, to bring about the restrictions on automatic weapons. It does no good to raise the age. It's a help, but it's not enough. We need a prohibition on those types of weapons. A complete and utter prohibition. The NRA has taken over this debate. They have funded politicians. They are, I won't use the word. We know what they are. And it's time to put them on notice. We as Americans are not going to put up with this anymore in this country at all. And I will have to break with the people who live near me, but I've yet to see a rattlesnake killed with a machine gun. So I'm ready. And that would be my main #1 cause. We do not have to wait for another event to bring this up. There are enough young people and citizens killed in the United States of America. It is time, folks. It is time. Thank you.
sidebar, I live pretty close to Barbara in Cochise County, and we agree with you too. So you're not alone if you ever want to help. The biggest thing in terms of timeline, right now there is one last permit for Rosemont Copper to actually start their mine. It's in Los Angeles right now. It's in the Corps of Engineers office. That's the first thing that I would attack. We need to make sure that that mine is not a part of our community. We do need jobs, but not those jobs. We do not need temporary jobs. So, in terms of vital things that we have to get done, that's the first one. Second one would be restoring and actually clearing some of those vacancies in the VA and also the State Department. So as we look at global conflicts as they're escalating throughout the world, and also our global, actually, it seems like a global conflict in the VA, those things need to be addressed, but there has to be staff to address them. And so those are the two things, I think, shifting with away from my party a little bit and really looking into in-depth candidates, whether they be Democrat or Republican, but the core of who they are as individuals, to make sure that they staff these agencies, because that's actually how policy gets done.
Thank you for having us here again. I want to echo what everybody has said. This school is ground zero as a demonstration of what has occurred with budget cuts since 2008. I received a text from someone at TUSD that said when we held some parent-teacher meetings here in February, it rained and they had to have the assistant principal go up and down and teachers with mops and buckets. My experience on the city council and the legislature has taught me that there is not just one issue, but we have to multitask. All at once on day number one, that's what really counts, day number one, all these things are coming at us. Healthcare, taxes, the military budget, infrastructure bills, immigration reform. All at once, we're going to have to be ready to hit the road running, have positions, and begin to work within our own caucus and also across the aisle. Within our own caucus, I want to tell you how I do differ from the Democratic Party. And let me make clear to you that I am a loyal Democrat. I serve as the assistant House leader in the state legislature and the whip, so 4 years combined, elected by my colleagues. It is shameful that the DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, has taken the task before you have had a chance to vote to endorse a candidate. An exception with the fact that the Democratic Party has not come out for universal health care, for Medicare for all. That first day, I am reminded of October 2008, when Senator Obama and Senator McCain were about a month away from being elected, and McCain said, I'm taking a day off because of the crisis, the financial crisis. Remember, President Bush said everything is meltdown, 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 and McCain said we need to take time off. And Senator Obama at the time famously said, we cannot take time off. We can multitask. We can take care of more than one issue at a time, and that's what my experience has taught me, and that's what I'll confront on day one in the Congress of the United States.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, everybody, for coming here tonight on your Thursday evening. I really appreciate it. You coming and listen to us and giving your time. So my name is Yahya Yuksel, and I'm a young Democrat. And when he says what I want to fix, well, I'll tell you why I'm running. We see a lot of things. We see a broken Congress. We see consistent and constant war. And when we see an economy that's not working for everybody. And today, we need new ideas, not yesterday's answers, to get things done and win this seat back. And that's why we're running. When you say, what's the number one thing in Congress to fix? Well, there's a systemic problem in Congress right now. It's campaign finance. And it's something I will go against my party because both parties are complicit in it right now. Your congressman spends most of his time fundraising in some situations. They're required to. Otherwise, their bills won't get to the floor. Their bills about guns won't get to the floor unless they are campaign financing and fundraising. And we can free them of those shackles and return this government and this democracy back to the people. Because right now it's not responsive to what we want. And there's empirical studies showing that. It's a special interest and economic elite who dictate it. So yes, I want a growing economy. I want to reform the tax bill. I want to bring dreamers in line with other Americans. And I want to do a lot more. But until we change campaign finance, people have ulterior motives that we can't unleash them from. And that's what we've got to change. And we can start with the FEC. There are 2 vacancies on there that, why is Congress not putting someone in there? It's almost not even able to vote on things. There's 6 seats and 2 are missing. That just shows you they're not willing to really get down into campaign finance. You don't want a congressman spending time fundraising at cocktail parties. You want him reading the bills that he's passing or she's passing. That's what they deserve. That's what you deserve, and that's what they need to do to represent you. Thank you.
Our first main topic is healthcare. What should we do to give people a decent selection of affordable coverage so they can get quality healthcare? Should Obamacare be scrapped or improved? And specifically in what way? Do you back a single payer plan or a public option? Or perhaps Medicare for all? And Billy Kovacs, you get to lead things off with 90 seconds.
Thank you. I think some of the biggest issues that we have right now, Bruce and I would love to align on this, or both, for Medicare for All. First time I came out with it, Bruce hit me in the shoulder and said, dang it. I love that guy. One of the biggest issues is cross-state competitivity in the marketplace. That's number one that I would start looking at and addressing. The other one is containing the cost of prescription drugs, as well as we move to a public option and then Medicare for All. Look, who thinks day one we're going to pass Medicare for All when one of us gets elected? Let's look at the reality of the situation. Let's make sure that we take what we have now and make sure that we build upon that system. That's why I'm in favor of, there's 5 or 6 Democratic bills right now. Senator Murphy has a bill as well. We need to make sure that we can segue from our system that we have now and have a public option opt-in system and then build a pathway to Medicare for All. But I think it starts around making sure that you can have a competitive marketplace just so there's not one monopoly like we have in Arizona and other states as well.
First of all, I do believe in Medicare for All, Billy. So that's in my website. But the whole umbrella discussion is universal health care. You know, Medicare for All is a single payer, it's a process. But the important here is that everybody has health care. Health care is a right that we have. And so we have to work in that direction. Right now, there are 2 big problems with our healthcare system. One of them is that 9% of the population in the United States does not have any kind of health care. There's also a lot of folks who are underinsured. The other big problem is that, and I studied an article on this one, our health care, generally speaking, provides the same kind of care that is provided throughout the world in terms of quantity and quality. The problem is that our health care is way more expensive, and that's why it's such a problem in the society. That's why people are underinsured. But I feel more hopeful in terms of implementing a universal health care system. If we want to go Medicare for All, we can definitely do that. Single payers is fine. I feel more hopeful because 40% of the folks who have health care are government funded. We have plenty of government funded insurances out there. We have TRICARE, we have CHAMPUS, Medicare, Medicaid, the Indian Health Service. We've got 40% of our population already under a government-funded process. So taking the leap forward is not going to be that hard. The government already knows how to do that. They already do it for 40% of the folks. What we need to have is the will to have universal health care. It's a matter of will. And we as politicians, if we get to Congress, need to have that will to have it, to pass Medicare for All or universal health care. But everybody should have health care. It is a right.
I think all of us up here at least support Medicare for all, and that's a good thing.
Well, let me break in there.
Sure.
Raise your hand if you support Medicare for all. All right. Raise the point, so I want to find out.
I appreciate that. And I want to go a step further because, you know, a lot of people ask out on the Huskies, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, first of all, it is a moral imperative. It is an economic imperative. The Democratic Party used to stand for universal health care back when, ever since Harry Truman was president, he attempted to do it and it didn't work. But let's talk about the costs. Now, first of all, if we were to take the cost that it costs this nation that you have to pay because of other people, the super wealthy corporations, not paying taxes. And when you have General Electric not paying taxes between 08 and 12, $0, and getting the $3 billion rebate back on $37 billion of profits in that period of time, that means that you, each and every one of you that had paid federal dollars, paid more than General Electric. So that's a source to pay for Medicare for all. The cost would be approximately $1.38 trillion a year. If we were to do a 6.2 income-based health care premium paid by employers, that would generate $630 billion. A progressive income tax rate, we've heard of that, $110 billion. Taxing corporate capital gains, $92 billion. Limiting tax deductions for the wealthiest. That figure flies all over the place, but it's in the billions of dollars. The state tax to inheritances of 3.5 million or more, $21 billion. We're already at almost the entire cost of the projected cost to this nation and to the citizens of this country for the $1.38 trillion for health care. I think the experience that Matt and I don't know if Matt was on there in 2013, but we in the legislature in 2013 passed Medicaid expansion. And to me, that was a transformative move in the state legislature when we were able to ally ourselves with Jan Brewer. She did for economic reasons. We Democrats did it for economic and moral reasons, and we said yes. We got all the Democrats, and as the whip, we got 7. I helped get 7 more Republicans in the House, and we passed Medicaid expansion. We added 350,000 people to the healthcare rolls in the state of Arizona. Something that the attempts last year by Martha McSally and almost all the Republicans and President Trump tried to undo. And so that's why I stand for Medicare for all, and that's how we'll pay for it as well.
Thanks, Bruce.
So, no, and a lot of what Bruce said is actually right. Look, we have a lot of programs that are already providing a lot of great care. We need to make them better. We can grow, as we did here in Arizona, Medicaid. We can also grow Medicare, and maybe it's not all in one bill. I'd love it if it were, but maybe it's something that we have to do over time. Maybe we have to say, all right, folks that are 55 to 64, they can buy in earlier, and maybe we do it that way. There's a bill, actually, that is, I think it's Chris Murphy, but I may be wrong, but there's a bill that actually that really covers that. So we have a lot of really good small systems and large systems like Medicare that are doing great jobs. We can make them better, and we can make them coalesce. And that includes not tearing down the Affordable Care Act at every turn like the current administration is doing, but actually helping it to be more competitive and reduce premiums for Arizona families.
But I have a slight alternative. Would you like me to respond?
30 seconds.
Great. We obviously need universal and affordable health care for everybody, from the day they're born till their last day. And we Democrats have been fighting for this all our time, for 70 years, since Truman in 45, Lyndon Johnson we made Medicare, and Obama with the ACA. The ACA is good. It was the first step towards that universal health care that we all want. Why break it down? We have systems that are working, like the loyalty in TRICARE, the excellence of care in the VA, and also the administrative costs of the current Medicare. It's an uphill battle to reduce the costs and expand coverage. There are people out there, corporations, big pharma, hospitals, and other entities that need to reduce the costs because they're not right now, and they're charging us more than everywhere else in the world. Why? We can make it more improved. We can address the aging population. We can address the epidemic levels of chronic disease. And we can also address many other things that are bringing us down, but also the cost of medical advance. Those are expensive. But let's keep doing those things. And if we say Medicare for all or nothing, I say Medicare for all. But let's continue to improve and build. You eat an elephant bite by bite. Not in one fell swoop. So that's why I believe in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Dylan.
We gotta move on, Barbara.
Do you mind if I just address this?
Really quick.
Okay, really quick. Thank you. Okay, I'm for Medicare for all, like everybody else. I looked this up today, and I spent a lot of time, so the reason I'm going to talk about it, two important differences, seriously, between Canada and the U.S., because everybody brings up Canada when they talk to me out there, and they condemn it like it's the worst place in the world to have health care. Let me tell you the main reason. There are two reasons why it's so different between Canada and what could happen in the United States. Our drug costs in the United States are 35 to 45% higher than in Canada. Guess why? Their patent laws are so short. Ours can be extended by 5 years over the original patent. Those drug companies hold on to those patents like you would not believe. And they take that voluntary right to extend them 5 more years. That is why over 1 million people bought their drugs from Canada. Hello? I mean, why do we make things so difficult in America? I mean, really, it's pretty obvious. Additionally, we have 3 times the amount of MRIs, CAT scan machines. Medical malpractice in Canada hardly exists. We are 350% more medical malpractice money in America. Hello, lawyers! I mean, seriously, sometimes I think my head is going to explode.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
For a lot of our veterans, and we have an increasing number of veterans as we're still in the midst of one of the longest sustained conflicts in our history. We have a lot of people who need care, and it's not doing right by a whole lot of our veterans right now. How do we fix that?
We can fix it for sure, but before we do that, I would like every veteran in the room to please stand up. Please. I know there's one right there. Everybody. One at a time. Thank you so much. You're a hero. And yes, veterans do deserve, and they've earned our loyalty. They've earned the care that we give them. However, we have not put enough resources into the VA. The waiting lists are about as long as they can get. They've gotten to the point where they're outsourcing the VA health. And veterans like going to the Veterans Hospital and getting treated like soldiers or like airmen. You know, they love that institution. But the VA is underfunded. So what's happening now? The continued attack on the Veterans Administration is privatization. Privatization is a wrong thing to do. It is a wrong thing to do. It's going to cost the taxpayer more money. When you contract those services out, there is going to be a profit margin that someone's going to want to benefit from. Why should we pay an additional cost, an additional for the profit margin that some private entity wants to make? No, we need to dedicate our resources to the VA, not privatize them, make sure we give them enough funds to stop those waiting lists, more doctors, more nurses, more pharmacists, whatever care it is that they need. That's what I believe in.
What can the federal government do, and are you, if you're in Congress, do about the opioid epidemic? And do you agree that we're seeing a widespread problem of abuse and overdoses? Do you think that's maybe overblown, the problem?
Well, I know in a lot of places it's not overblown. One life lost to opioids is a big responsibility and indictment on us all. This war on drugs, where has it gotten us? Where's the war on pharma? We have men and women abusing and using opioids, and it's not necessarily all their fault. And what we do as a nation will be there for generations to come. How we address this. Do we lock them up in prisons and isolate them and turn them into something else? Or do we care for them and say this is a social health problem and we all rally behind it? Everyone, Republican or Democrat, will get behind this. Instead of a war on drugs that's cost us billions and not got us much, let's turn it around and do social health. Let's take care of these people. My mom is in the healthcare industry. She sees this stuff. So let's take care of it. It is a problem. Any life lost to it is a problem, and it's our failure if we don't address it.
Thank you.